So poops, we all know that the hate against the Rohingya has been going up and up and up recently in Malaysia. But anyway, on my petition for the Malaysians First petition, somebody went ahead and said, well, I cannot help but observe there has been a massive influx of Rohingya related posts on this subreddit and our Malaysia in the past 1 to 2 weeks, not least repeated posts almost every other hour about the remove change.org petition. I don't believe there has been any single viral event that would explain why all these posts have come about. Some of these might be genuine, but the frequency and suddenness of this issue for no apparent reason is very suspicious. Which begs the question, like, is there some sort of coordinated actor, some sort of mastermind doing this? Komas's Gerald Joseph definitely thinks so. Media organization after media organization has been trying to analyze this, so we must ask, is there a coordinated campaign against the Rohingya? If you say that something is coordinated, then that suggests that there's some kind of like mastermind working in the shadows to make it so that people discriminate against the Rohingya and hate the Rohingya. But you know, I don't think the evidence actually supports that. And here's why. It's true that the Selayang poster was sus, and maybe there was no proof that actually a member of the Rohingya community actually went out and said this. And it's probably true that some of the screenshots that we're seeing out there of people interacting with Rohingyas are not actually real. But see, the thing is that I don't think you can make the stronger claim that, oh, there is somebody out there who really hates Rohingyas who is making it so that there is this actual systematic persecution of the Rohingya community. No, I don't think you can say that. I think what you actually have here is something very different, and that's the legitimate expectation that the Malaysian government is going to protect our borders, is going to keep our homes safe, not allow illegal immigration because it suits the agenda of some politicians. I'm not going to say who. And I think those are actually enough to trigger people enough to the point that they view such things as an actual problem. And you know, you look at all of the different events that are happening right here. Yeah, sure, maybe some people might hate the Rohingya or just not be happy with them to the point that they would end up creating all of this. But does that mean that, I don't know, there's some sort of like funded political party or initiative to make it so that people will end up hating the Rohingya and then chasing them out of Malaysia? And you know, some people are talking about so-called far-right nationalists, suggesting it's a distraction to bring us away from the Quil Haram thing. But I don't find that convincing at all. See, the reality of social media and even a video like this, right, is that not a single one of us, not Anwar Ibrahim, not MCMC, Fatih Fadzil, Teo Nie Ching, or anyone else controls exactly how the algorithm distributes things. It works based on profit maximization, which is like, how can we keep you on Facebook or on any social media platform for the longest amount of time so we can show you ads? Turns out the easiest way to do that, according to the research, is to show people things that they naturally respond to on a very large scale. The fact is that a lot of people knew that there was something very wrong when Malaysia decided to start bringing in people into our community. And frankly, it's just not very surprising that people would end up liking, sharing, angry reacting, commenting that there's a legit problem in their community because they actually feel very strongly about the fact that they are not getting protected. Now, is it justified or is it not justified? Now, that's a separate question, but I think that is a perfectly normal and understandable reaction. That, by the way, translates into social media engagement. Yes, they were refugees, but also yes, in many ways, for different reasons, and according to the experiences of a lot of different people, these people did bring problems into Malaysia that Malaysians are, for a matter of fact, not comfortable with. I mean, granted, when you see stories like this, for example, or that, or even that, is it really so out of the blue that you go and share that? News arcs do have an incentive to actually put out things that are viral, things that people will click on, rage on, and complain about. So then that naturally amplifies things. But if you're saying that basically somebody or something planned it all out, then you're saying basically that the people who signed the petition, the people who ended up commenting, sharing their thoughts about what they don't like about illegal immigration are all just completely wrong. I mean, come on. There's an expectation that you realize that if you are a guest in this country, you should behave well. And if you don't behave well, then what's going to happen is that people are going to judge you. And you can only have so much compassion all the way, right? But at some point, it's going to become a question of, if I'm being kind in this situation, then am I actually being cruel to my family, to my community, to the people around me who just want to be safe in their own country? You know, people do know about the fact that the Rohingya, for example, right, are paying 25k in order to get into Malaysia. And they also know, by the way, that coming to Malaysia and breaching our sovereignty is a choice. It's not like Malaysia is the only choice for these people to actually go to when they could have gone maybe to Cox's Bazar. Not a very good choice. Or maybe some other location, although I think that their options have been kind of like cut down recently because Thailand stopped accepting them, Singapore never accepted them, Australia never accepted them, and Malaysia pretty much accepts them precisely because our country doesn't enforce the law properly. Which shows exactly how Malaysia is failing its people by failing to protect our borders, failing to stop illegal immigration. I think Malaysians generally just want to live safe, happy, fulfilled, and hopefully prosperous lives in Malaysia without worrying that there are people who might actually threaten that situation. You can say what you want about registering refugees and stuff like that, but the fact is that the country is just letting in these people who didn't grow up with us, who don't share our culture, and that is the reality of the thing. So if you want to say that, oh, this is like a plan, it's some sort of crazy conspiracy, I don't know, Zionists trying to make Malaysians fight with one another so we can distract ourselves from all the important things that are happening out in our society, I don't think that's enough evidence to support that idea. But of course, you can't really stop people from thinking that that is the case, because it can be explained by people just not liking Rohingyas and then choosing to share organically because that's just how they feel and they were activated. I mean, there are real problems, you know. Like, I don't even know if people are thinking about some of these, but like, what if these people end up getting brainwashed by propaganda? What if they're radicalized? What if they bring fights into Malaysia that are not even our fight, that we never had an interest in, start sharing narratives on places like this Rohingya reality TV, which is, by the way, a real YouTube channel where people can actually hear news about Malaysia. And sure, there are lots of these NGOs that are saying that, hey, you know what, stop the hatred and everything like that. But I think at some point you may have to accept that this is really how Malaysians feel. This is not just some game where there's a happily ever after and you can avoid the problem, you can try to push it away, imagine that it doesn't exist, and hope that it will blow over, but I don't think that's going to be a sustainable solution. We hope it's not going to end up becoming worse, but if the government doesn't come up with better statements than, oh, you need to take a balanced approach, it might. You can come up with all the sorts of conspiracy theories that you want, but honestly, I think that's just a way of avoiding the actual problem, which is a very, very real one. But anyway, what do you think, Sapoops? Do you think there's a coordinated campaign against the Rohingya? Some sort of hashtag planner along the way? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. That's all to say about that, and bye.